In November of 2000, director Bob Mizorowski, his crew, and a talented cast journeyed to India to film what they believed to be a taut, tense, and exciting story about air terrorism. The final sound for the film was mixed in the first few days of September 2001. On September 10th, the final answer print of Air Panic was delivered.
I remember walking into the hotel, and in the lobby of the hotel there's this television set, and somebody was watching the horrible events of the World Trade Center. And there was this picture of a building and an airplane flying into the building, and I went, they're looking at the film. How did they get my film here?
Oh, yeah.
Cut out the commuter planes and international flights because this guy likes big, spectacular U.S. crashes.
Neil, you're not a secret agent.
Air Panic is about a guy who works at the FAA.
It's going to D.C. on the 4th of July. Shh. If you want spectacular, that's the one.
And he figures out that there's a hijacker who somehow figured out how to hack into the computer control on board planes, and he's causing plane crashes. And when he figures out which plane is next targeted, he does everything he can to get on that plane, and most of the movie is a cat and mouse battle between him and the villain.
Air Panic, it just leapt off the page. It was just taut, good, and loved the leading character.
It was a very believable hero.
What appealed to me at the time about the story was that it capitalized on people's fears of flying.
It was kind of a reality in the making. It was obvious that it is possible.
I had gone to Vancouver about 2 months prior to that to shoot a series which is no longer in the air called Level 9. And I was playing the pilot of a 747 that was taken over by air terrorists. It was obviously in the zeitgeist. It's eerie when you look back in retrospect to think how this presaged 9/11.
When I saw the first print, it was maybe 3 days after September 11. And it was really tough to look at it.
It was hard on, I guess, everybody that worked on the show suddenly to see the picture coming to reality.
It was a movie that was gripping in that there was a plausibility to it. And unfortunately, it was a plausibility that turned into not only a possibility, but an actuality.
I think it's okay now, you know. The climate changed.
Finally, it's a positive movie. It's about people who band together to fight terrorists who have taken over the plane.
It's Neil.
We're in crisis mode here.
I'm on flight 672.
Oh, my God, that was you?
Turn on your comm cam. I was right, Sam.
You broke every rule in the book. But I'm really glad you're up there.
Our fear was that the show, because it's in an airplane, it will get too claustrophobic. So we had to go outside sometimes just to open up.
Not only that it's one location, but basically it's one pipe with people sitting down. There's not a lot of movement.
That's the challenge. How do you make that interesting? And my answer to that is you just get closer and closer and closer. When you're in a confined space, you actually make the space bigger by making the image of the actor larger. I don't know why that works, but it does.
You know the pain you're causing.
Pain?
My favorite scene in the picture is the attack by the FBI on the villain's campus headquarters, which is broadcast live to his prisoners effectively in the plane.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's time to begin our in-flight entertainment.
I think that juxtaposition of the two locations and the one seeing the other is very effective.
They're here.
This scene was divided to two scenes, actually. One, the FBI attack, Kane's place, and then Kane's reporting to the airplane.
You know, you're gonna miss the best part.
We were fighting length of the film, and Mark Yakubovich said, why don't we try a live broadcast? And I loved the idea, and it just cut wonderfully.
I love working with Bob. We had a lot of arguments in the editing room, how it should be, some scenes should be cut, when should we reveal Kane, who is the bad guy, a lot of things like that, but, you know, in the end, we always hug and keep going to the next scene.
Folks, we've turned on the fasten the seatbelt sign and we started our descent into Denver.
Bob's genesis to directing was through producing and writing. He's a very practical director. He's one of those directors who makes the absolute most of what's available to him in terms of resources.
He is the most detail-oriented person I have ever met.
As a producer, it's nice to work with a director who was a producer, because we kind of were able to develop a shorthand where I could go to Bob and say, Bob, you know, we can't have, and he'd go, I know, we can't have, and you fill in the blank. He understands the very real constraints of making a movie.
Bob also has a really nice knack with actors of getting their best performances out of them.
He has more energy than any director I've ever worked with.
He's one of the funniest men I've ever met. He is a raconteur. He loves a great story, a great joke, and sitting around a dinner table with him and his crew and his friends is a memorable experience.
I worked very closely with Bob because the critical thing about second unit is that the second unit footage needs to match what the first unit shot and what in the vision of the first unit director. For example, when the two main characters are sucked out of the cabin, Bob shot everything up to the point they pull the door, and just as they close the door, and everything in between I shot actually on a completely different stage with both stunt people and the real actors.
When I read the script, for example, of the co-pilot and the passenger Bob flying out of the airplane, I didn't know exactly how we were going to go and do it, or how Bob is planning to do it.
Oh, that was great fun. We never thought that would work.
You take a green screen, you take a miniature, you take a real airplane, everything together, and just build it and massage it until it comes to the right point.
We built a section of 4 rows that we could turn on its side, so that actually they were flying on a 45-degree angle. So they fell at first, and then the cable grabbed them, and they got pulled back. A movie that goes from Milwaukee, Wisconsin to Baltimore, Maryland, where else would you shoot it? But in Hyderabad, Ramoji Film City, India.
You know, the Universal Studios of Hyderabad.
Of course that's where you'd film it.
They have a larger film industry than we do. I mean, they turn out 1,000 movies a year. You know, the key people were as good as film crews anywhere else in the world.
They're not used to shooting sync sound in India, so these sound stages are just big barns, and there was no air conditioning, and you know, it was always pushing 95 degrees and close to 100% humidity. It's hot, wet conditions, and it was hard on the makeup people and hard on the actors.
I can remember shooting scenes that were good scenes and great takes, but there are flies there. They would engulf this huge soundstage with something that was probably incredibly toxic. And for maybe about an hour or two, there wouldn't be a bug in sight. And then we'd have to take a break and then come in and bomb the studio again. Little things like that.
When you go to do a movie on location, most of the time it's like you go to a summer camp.
We're on the studio, we're sitting in our chairs, and there's a little bit of a mess in one of the corners of the studio. And someone just yells, Cobra on set, Cobra, Cobra. Cobra? Are they saying Cobra on set? Well, there's a Cobra on set, just, you know, the 8-foot brown Cobra. One drop kills 40 men. So, Cobra, Cobra on set, everybody move, come over, we get Cobra Man.
You know, the challenge is always language, particularly in India where there's so many different languages. I asked Prabhahad, who was the script supervisor, could you please tell Sinu that I need the dailies from day 4 in the VCR? And Prabhahad said, of course. And he turns to Sinu and said, please put the dailies from day 4 in the VCR. I said, why do you tell him in English? And Prabhahad said, I'm from Calcutta. I speak Hindi. I don't speak Telugu.
And action!
They use real TNT. They use real dynamite. Yeah. And as I pick the shards of shrapnel out of the back of my neck.
We've got a cockpit, and it's mounted on these rockers. And there's about 50 people shaking the hell out of it. And it's sort of, you know, embodied the thought that in the West, when we have a problem, we throw money and technology at it. In India, they throw people at it, because that's what they're richest in.
We might have lost like 3 or 4 stuntmen on that shot, but it's okay, because you need to ship in 3 or 4 more. There's so many people working here. It's wonderful.
We had a dialogue scene when Neil and Tristana are in the shaft, trying to take over the plane by messing with the computer.
Which one?
What do you mean, which one?
And I just love the chemistry between those 2 actors.
Well, how should I know? I'm not an engineer.
It's okay, just tell me what it says.
You know, I don't like having this kind of responsibility, okay? I make the wrong decision and people die.
Take a deep breath. Just tell me what it says.
The bad guy figures out that they're down there and starts pitching the plane all over. So they slide forward, they slide backward, they're hanging on for dear life. And we filmed that again on one of these little gimbal sets. So the whole set was literally going 45 to 60 degrees. And they were really fighting, you know, the gravity and everything else, and still staying in character and still performing. And the set wasn't finished that well, so they were getting cut up pretty badly by some nails and some rough edges and like that. And they just stayed in character the whole time.
It was the most difficult to shoot, but I just loved the intensity and the desperation.
Army missiles. No, wait. 2 more minutes and these people have a real chance to survive.
Sorry, 672. 2 more minutes. 2 more minutes and these people got a real chance at survival.
672. You know what? They let me do some stuff. I did a lot of the motorcycle stuff where I jump on the back of an ambulance, moving, swinging around.
Maybe because I've jumped out of a lot of planes. Just seeing Rodney chasing that plane down the runway and trying to get aboard, the thought of that. Saying, oh boy, he's not packing a chute, and you could crash and burn real easy here, partner.
Thinking back, I am lucky to have come out of there.
What a rush.
There's a wonderful villain, just a totally wonderful performance by Alex Enberg.
He brought such a great sense of humor and this mocking thing. He's a very intelligent actor.
I'm a wig actor. I never really wanted to be an actor. I just wanted to put on Dracula teeth and hair and prance around in my mother's lingerie.
I watched him shoot all his scenes, and he'd watch me, and so we knew exactly what each other were doing the whole time. So it was good. When I'd watch him, and I knew he's going there, so I'm like, okay, I gotta go there. So it was good. It was a good, healthy competition.
We sort of did a little trick on Alex. He was scheduled to perform much sooner, and we just kept him in the hotel for an extra week or 10 days, I forget, just to build up his anxiety level. He created that character, and then I put him under the pressure of saying we had to shoot this all in one night, which we didn't, but I wanted him to feel that pressure.
Yeah, now that's what I've been thinking about.
And he felt that pressure, and he rose to it, and I think it's one of the best bad guy performances in film.
I want my genius to be realized, and for the world to regret throwing away and not cherishing that genius. I want my place in history, but most of all, I want to watch it burn. Are you afraid? Because you damn well better be.
It's so difficult the way we just give ourselves and every bit of ourselves to our art and to tell a story, and yet as the curtain closes, it's like that part of you dies. To act is to give birth to a child every night, and at the end of that shoot, it's like that child dies, and you have to adopt another one.
Wow.
That's very good.
I think audiences in a pre-9/11 world would have liked Air Panic in any event simply because it's a strong story with strong characters and a very heroic storyline. In the post-9/11 world, I think seeing ordinary people overcome this kind of evil that's now real in the world is probably a cathartic experience.
I think visually it holds up very well. I think the story's very compelling, and I think they're going to like the characters.
It's got humor in it. It's tragic. It keeps you at the end of your seat the whole time, from the beginning, from the get-go.
Hold on!
कोई खूबसूरत परी जैसी होगी मुझे क्या पता दिलरुबा कैसी होगी ढूंढता हूँ तुझे ओ मेरी जान जा प्यार में एक दिन मेरी जान तुझे दबाना तो जान जाना ढूंढे तेरा दीवाना सपनों में रोज आ जिंदगी में आना सनम